Hello, my Australian friends. This is Baron Hoig, the Executive Director of One Chiropractic and the Chiropractic Defense Council. This video is designed to be very detailed about what's going on in Australia, what the role of the CDC, our interpretation of the role of the ACA, and other organizations that are functioning in Australia. So forgive me for the length, but this is intended to be a very detailed email and a summary of the town hall meetings that we did when I was over there a few weeks ago. Those of you that attended those meetings, thank you so very much for taking the time and energy to come and see me. It is amazing to spend time with you guys and get to know who you are personally. A lot of you and I have emailed over the years, but it's always a great time to see you and developing some good friendships with some of you guys as well. So thank you for that time. But this video is a summary of those town halls for those that weren't able to make the town hall, but want to know really what the plan is moving forward. I'm also very conscious that this video is going to be sent everywhere. It's likely going to be seen by members of opera or different organizations that are functioning both government level as well as in the profession. So please understand that everything I'm saying is very intentional. I'm aware of other people watching this, which is fine. If it's in this video, that you are free to talk about this to anyone and everyone. And as a matter of fact, my request is that this video goes viral and every chiropractor in Australia sees it. So please do me a favor and share this as much as you possibly can with everybody that you possibly can so that everyone's on the same page. The number one reason we have the issues we have in Australia for chiropractic is because we're segmented and we're ignorant. People don't know what's going on. They're unaware of the work that's being done. They're unaware of strategies that are being used to try to make sure that what we believe is best for Australians is actually what's happening, rather than the uneducated attacks that have been happening against chiropractic. And so I'm going to get very detailed, and I hope you take the time to watch this. And again, please share this with absolutely everyone because everyone needs to know this information. Now, I'm going to break this down into two topics. One topic is going to be the marketing rules and regulations that currently exist in Australia and what we're calling Operation Free Speech. Secondly, I'm going to be talking with you about the pediatric situation and the interim policy that is going on and what is going to be done in order to combat that effort. I've intentionally waited a few weeks to do this video because I've been waiting for certain things to happen for me to give you the most up-to-date information. You'll find I'm still waiting on some of that, but I did not want to delay this video any further because I want people to know what's going on, and I want to kind of use the energy that's been created from the town halls and have you guys forward this to as many people as you can. So I'm recording it. I'm going to give you the information, and hopefully it addresses a lot of questions and points for you so that everyone understands what's being done and why, and you can jump on board. And maybe for once in the history of our profession, we will organize chiropractic, all of us working together in one direction to ensure that chiropractic is available to all Australians, as should be the case. All right, so there's all the housekeeping rules, and now I'm going to dig into the information. So I'm going to start with the marketing rules in Australia. When we came out of the pandemic, and the mandates for vaccinations and shutting chiros down that weren't vaccinated was kind of over. We do still have a few cases that we're still working of chiropractors that are still fighting with the government, believe it or not, on the ridiculousness of those mandates. But for the most part, that's dead and gone. And I don't really anticipate anything like that ever happening again. But as we came out of that, one of the number one things we were told was an issue in Australia prior to the pandemic was the issue of the massive restrictions associated to chiropractors being able to market in their communities. To the point that for a long time, you guys just don't really say much of anything in your marketing because you're too fearful of getting a letter from opera stating that you need to remove certain things. So you don't know what's allowed, so you just stop doing it. So I wanted to dig into this and figure out what was going on. So we had our attorneys really look at the policy, understand the language in that particular policy, and tell us it's one of two things. Either we needed to fix it from a legislative perspective, meaning we need to lobby to get the language changed to allow us to do what you should be able to do, or It was an interpretation issue, meaning the language within the policy itself wasn't necessarily bad. It's the way that it's being interpreted by OPRA that has created the confusion and really stopped chiropractors from communicating authentically the effects of chiropractic. So I wanted to know, what one was it? Was the strategy going to be legislative and lobbying, or was it going to have to be an issue of helping OPRA better interpret the code? So after about 6 months of our firm really digging in and looking at it, it was brought back to us that it's an interpretation issue, that the language itself is relatively vague, but it definitely is not as restrictive as the way that it's being interpreted. As a matter of fact, when you look at other regulatory colleges on other specialties, they're not near as draconian with the same language as the chiropractic board is with ours. So we started looking at that and saying, okay, well, wait a minute. That's just more of an issue of really educating OPRA then on understanding what the rules and the policy really says and why some of the behavior of our chiropractors is actually appropriate and within the guidelines of that particular policy. So we launched what we called Operation Free Speech. This was an effort to get you the material that we knew qualified or was within the boundaries of that marketing policy. I want to be very clear here. We are not encouraging you to do anything outside of that policy. I'm not asking you to do illegal things, if you will. I'm asking you to stand your ground to make sure that you're telling the truth about chiropractic, knowing that you're within the boundaries of that policy. When OPRA comes after you, we will defend you because we know you're using materials that do fall within the limits of that policy. And it's a matter of educating OPRA. What's happened, and one of our major issues with one global regulatory process, is that they just cannot understand the intricacies of each specialty. They just don't have the capability to do it. When you're covering an entire country for a specialty, to really dig in and understand it, it becomes very difficult. So what happens is you create very general, broad, sweeping policy that make it easier to regulate. And oftentimes in doing so, you're restricting that particular environment from being able to express itself authentically. That's what's happening in Australia. So what we have done is we've looked at what's available to you through things like Dr. Heidi Havik's research. We introduced an organization called the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. Is an organization here in the United States that just has just a litany of wonderful documented, published information about the effectiveness of chiropractic. And then we wanted to present that to you. We also gave you a website from the New Zealand Chiropractic Association that created just a phenomenal website that has a lot of evidence-based information talking about the effectiveness of chiropractic. So we gave you resources saying, go to these sites and you can use anything on any of these sites and market your hearts out. So grab anything from those that are sourced and you are free to be able to communicate that moving forward. Now, the objective here is to get as many chiropractors doing this as possible. Doing so, we know we'll get the attention of OPRA. And I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, I need that to happen because as OPRA comes out and says, you need to remove this because it violates our policy, and our legal team comes back and educates them as to why what you did actually is within the policy, we're re-educating OPRA to not be as draconian and make them aware that a lot of this information is documented, is peer-reviewed, and is a standard of care within chiropractic. To make certain statements that they otherwise believe is outside of the evidence for chiropractic, they just haven't done the due diligence to find the evidence. And so we're giving that to them so that in the future, they will relax those particular views that they currently have on information related to chiropractic. So we need lots and lots of people doing this. I'm not asking you to break any rules or laws. What I'm asking you to do is to stand firm on the truth and the evidence associated to chiropractic and no longer be afraid of being targeted by your regulatory body. And I hear it over and over and over again that there's a fear that these regulatory bodies are just trying to keep us down. I don't believe it's an intentional thing to screw chiropractic. I think it's an ignorance on their part. And the only way we're going to actually educate them is to do it and have them try to hold you accountable. And then we educate them through that process. I wish there was a better way. I don't know of a better way. So this is the way that we're doing it. So I need you. We are going to be providing you, again, a resource that helps you do this. Now, one of the questions that I got through all of the town halls as I was explaining this process was, well, isn't there an easier way? We don't necessarily want to go to the websites. We don't know what we should pull. We don't really know how to make it an exciting thing to put on our website or to put on our social media channels. Can you do it for us? And the answer is absolutely not. I'm not doing it for you because I'm not a marketing company. One of the reasons we're able to function on the money that we bring in is because we stick in our lane and we only do what we do. But good news is I have had an individual step up and say, I will do that work on behalf of those that don't have the team to do it. Because my recommendation is this: I own a clinic here in the United States, and I have a team member that I tell her every single day I want something posted. I give her 3 websites to go to, the same essentially websites as what I've told you. And I want you to pull anything from those sites, but I want 1 post a day. So that's just part of her job description, is to go to those sites, find something that strikes her chord. It's a wonderful educational tool for my team to constantly be aware of the new information coming out about the effectiveness of chiropractic. But it's part of their job description to grab 1 thing from those sites and put it on our social media channels. And if it's a really good one, then we'll figure out a way to work it into our website as well. But that's what I would recommend for any of you. But I realize not all of you have the staff that are trained and capable and aware of social media to be able to create a really cool post. So we have had an individual that created a company that will do that for you. That link is going to be in the base of this email. It's a very inexpensive cost monthly for them to deliver to you the evidence that I'm talking about, the information that we know we can support if anyone challenges you, but they deliver it to you 7 pieces a month, or a week rather. So you have 1 per day that you can put out into your social channels. So thank you very much for doing that. And you can get that link below this video if you're interested in doing that. Sign up for that, and then it makes it even easier. It's just delivered to you. Your job is just to get it and put it on your social channels. We need stuff going out every single day. Now imagine this with me. If we had 2,000 chiropractors every single day posting tangible peer evidence information, what the impact that's going to have. Number one, yes, opera's not even going to know what to do with themselves if they feel like that's inappropriate to even be able to handle the sheer volume of this. We're prepared to defend 2,000 chiropractors that are doing this the right way. But I want you to understand the impact that has, one, on your clinic, that you're constantly hitting your social environment with information that's talking about the effectiveness and chiropractic mindset on the regular. It's going to give you new patients. It's going to give you new patients that know why they're coming. There's a lot of pluses for you as an individual office. But imagine what that does just for the impact of Australia in general when we have chiropractors submitting very good evidence-based information on the regular. It's just necessary. This only works, and let me push this to you even more, which is why I want these videos going to everyone. This only works when we have masses moving in that direction. I don't have masses right now. Now, I will tell you, I think we're at 30 right now. That I'm going offhand there. We have 30 chiropractors that have followed this plan. Opera has reached out to them. We've worked with them, and we have successfully defended them where they're continuing to do that. So we are having success in this model, but 30 is not going to get it done. I need thousands of people doing it. That is how we're going to turn the tide. I need you to understand, we have never been powerless as a profession. What we have done is we've essentially rendered ourselves ineffective because of our segmentation, and we separate and we don't organize. We don't come together. Moving people in one direction, a mass in one direction, is so powerful. And I'm going to talk to you about that in the pediatric topic. That is absolutely imperative that we organize. But I want you to understand, in this area of marketing, we have a strategy. Everyone's aware of it. Guild is aware of it. ACA is aware of it. We've talked to everyone about what our strategy is. They all understand it, and everyone's on board with it. Guild is very happy because they're tired of you guys submitting these frivolous little issues when you get the letters from Opera. So they are more than happy that we're proactively doing this, and we're mitigating their risk by covering you guys for doing this stuff, and they don't have to deal with it. So everyone's on the same page with this issue. I need you having the faith to move forward. Thank you to ADIO Creative for building the resource and the information. Sign up for that if you want to make this a cookie cutter plan. You don't have to. As I said, you can have one of your team members go to those sites. Everything is below to talk about this in this email, so you have everything you need to be able to move forward and start growing your practice by telling the story of chiropractic, but also have the confidence that if anyone comes after you, we've got your back. If you're a contributor, $33 a month, I think it equates to like $50 to $53 a month, then we will cover any of your legal needs as it relates to this particular issue. All right, there's a lot there. That's our marketing issue. Now I want to switch and transition into the pediatric issue. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because this video is already going to be longer than I want it to be, to go through the history of where we're at with this pediatric policy, but I'll do a short review. In 2019, there was this big blow up because of some videos that were put on social media that led to the creation of the creation of the policy. It wasn't interim at that point, a policy that restricted the ability for chiropractors to do a high velocity, low amplitude adjustment to children 2 and under. Didn't restrict you from seeing children 2 and under, didn't stop you from treating children 2 and under. It stopped you from doing a high velocity, low amplitude adjustment. Now, I could go on and on about my issues with that policy being created to begin with. I do believe it was part political. It was a part of the storm that FOSUM and the medical community had created, and it was an answer to that public display of atrocities, in my opinion. It should have never been created. There wasn't a shred of evidence of any harm that a chiropractor has really administered towards a child at any point in the history of Australia, as a matter of fact. And we've checked with Guild and other PI insurances, and there's not been one claim as it relates to children and chiropractic. However, the board at the time felt it was necessary to create the policy. Don't agree with it, but they created it. I cannot tell you what the actual reason was that the policy was removed in November of 23, but it was. We had started aggressively letting people know that we had hired a legal firm to look at restraint of trade, that we believe the policy should have never been put in place. It did unfairly create a bias against chiropractic, and it restricted access for people to get chiropractic. So our trade was affected. We started doing some work in conjunction with an organization called PCS, Patrons of Chiropractic Science. They were a great group that we started working with. It was actually their idea to do the restraint of trade case. And so our attorney started looking at it. We hired a senior barrister and really started looking at the plausibility of going after the government as it relates to that policy. We started promoting that pretty heavy. Now, I'm going to segue here for a second because I want to reiterate the respect and the admiration I have for the current group of individuals involved with the ACA. I understand there's history there. I understand people have their frustrations. I can't comment to any of that because I only know the organization over the last 2 years because that's the organization I'm working with. But I will vouch for Alex, their CEO. I will vouch for Dave Cahill, their president, and I will vouch for their board, as I've had a number of conversations with them. They are good people. They are doing the work that the association needs to be doing. But I want to be very clear to you about the role of the ACA. I believe they're being judged unfairly by a number of you because you believe it's their job to be the shield, the sword, the grenade launcher. It's their job to protect hell or high water chiropractic. And although I would agree with you, it's the strategy of which how they do that that I think is unfair. They're a member organization, which means they're beholden to their membership, and their member is anyone that pays the dues and meets the criteria to be a member. When you're a member organization, it's very hard for you to draw a hard line in the sand because when you do that, you alienate part of your membership. And so you actually have some legal issues there if you start doing things that the membership doesn't support. So there's a process that has to be gone through for that organization to make any really big moves. You need the membership to agree to it. You need the board to agree to it. All of these things have to happen. It's one of the restrictions of a member organization. It's one of the reasons that my organization is not a member organization because the type of work we do, I need to be able to move at a moment's notice. The ACA does not have that privilege. They don't get to just go out and throw grenades. I get to throw grenades. That's the way I'm built. So I know that a lot of you love that and you like that, but I'm here to tell you One of the major reasons that policy was removed in November is because of the politics that the ACA has to play. That is their job. Their job is to have relationships with all the decision makers in Australia. When you have a relationship with those individuals, you don't get to blow things up, because then you ruin relationships. Even during COVID, when those mandates came down, if the ACA would have come out as strongly against it as we did, then they would have hurt all of their relationships with any of the policy leads in Australia, which we cannot afford them to ruin those relationships. There always has to be a seat at the table in those discussions, and the ACA has that seat, and they need to maintain it. So you can't ever be as hot and cold as we are as an organization when you're them. So they continually had conversations with the chiropractic board, explaining to them what was going on, sharing with them the reality of our organization, and that we did have the financial backing to be able to do a lawsuit. So they were putting that in the ear of the chiropractic board. They did their job, and they did it well. And so I think you guys need to give them a little bit of slack on the way that they operate. We want them being the political group. And when you're the political group, you have to do things very differently and much softer than what you've seen from One Chiropractic and the CDC. I'm not a membership organization. I don't need to worry about pissing you guys off. I'm just going to go and do the work that needs to be done. We are the special forces that get called in to blow shit up and then go home. And that's our job. The ACA's job is to maintain those relationships, ensure that the foundation is secure, and move things forward over the long haul. So please understand the role of our organizations. And if we work well together, which we are right now, then I can be the bad cop, they can be the good cop. That's the way it's supposed to be. So they won't endorse us, and I don't want them to endorse us. What I want is a level of communication so that we make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and that the work that needs to be done is getting done. So we take a lot of pressure off the ACA shoulders from having to go and take and do some of that dirty work, which is exactly why we operate the way we do. But they also make it very able for us to do the things we do, because they maintain some of those relationships that we would never be able to maintain because we burn too many bridges. So hopefully that makes sense. I want you to understand that. So in November, in large part due to the lobbying efforts of the ACA, along with our push in the marketplace of saying we were coming after them, the policy got removed. Again, I can't prove that. That's just the timeline fits with that narrative, and that's what I'm going with. So then we move into the new year. Obviously, FOSUM and the medical community get word that that policy was removed. They throw an absolute hissy fit. They use their political relationships. They go to the media, and they were very orchestrated. I want you to hear me here, because this is part of our plan, is to use the very same strategy they use against us to actually educate the world about us. But they were very calculating. On one specific day, on 4 different media outlets, the medical community hit with this idea that children are in danger in Australia because the chiropractic board folded to the pressure of chiropractors. And somehow now all of these children are endangered. We know it's garbage. They were using incorrect, and I'm going to flat out tell you they were lying in the things that they did in this media push. But because we're unorganized as a profession, they get away with that stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that day is over. If any of those idiots, and I mean it, if you're watching this and you're part of those groups, we're coming after you. I'm done. You are no longer going to slander the profession I love, and you're no longer going to rob parents from access to something that is absolutely appropriate and necessary for a large percentage of these children because of the massive unfair nature of birthing process in the medical community. And yes, I'll say it all day long, and I'm happy to debate with anyone that wants to debate on that. But this needs to stop. They are lying about chiropractic. They are lying about the dangers associated to children receiving care under chiropractic. And we need to stand up and say that. So because of that political pressure, they didn't go after the chiropractic board. They actually just went to the health ministers themselves, which, if we're going to be honest, the health ministers didn't even know this policy existed. And so because of the chaos, and at that time, the health ministers said, wait a minute. Let's just put the policy back in place until we can figure out what's going on. So they demanded that there be an interim reinstatement of that policy until the health ministers could meet and decide what needs to be done. That's where we're sitting right now. We're sitting waiting for the health ministers to get the information from the chiropractic board as to why this policy was removed. The chiropractic board is on our side of this particular issue. They still maintain the policy is not necessary. They're an ally right now. I don't agree with the policy being created 5-6 years ago, but right now they're on our side. They're an ally. They're not the enemy. So what's been happening is the ACA has been doing their job to lobby the health ministers, make them aware of the truth of this matter, that they've been lied to by the medical community and special interest groups, and give them the facts. The way this needs to work is all of the health ministers, all 7 of them, have to agree in order for this policy to remain. So we're waiting to see what happens there. My gut tells me I do not believe it's going to be a unanimous decision of all health ministers. We have enough relationships with some of them to be able to give them the information. They have a level head enough of a health minister to understand truth against fabricated information. I don't think they're going to get a unanimous decision, and I think the policy is going to be removed. I could be wrong, and we're prepared if I am wrong, but I do believe that's going to happen. That was supposed to happen in August. They didn't end up talking about that. There wasn't enough time. So I'm being told in October at their next meeting that they will be discussing this, and we should know what the decision is in October. No guarantee it'll happen then, but that's what I'm being told right now. That's part of what I was waiting for this video to come out. I was hoping that there would have been a decision and I could give you a much cleaner path forward, but we're still waiting. If, in fact, they keep the current policy, then we will be changing our lawsuit and we will be going after the fact that they've done so with the lack of evidence. Now, let me be very, very clear what's being said right now. And I know this video is long, but hang in there. They're no longer saying that there's a danger because there is no evidence to show that there's a danger. What they're now claiming is that there's a lack of evidence showing a positive effect. This is where our lawsuit will get very specific. And I hope the health ministers watch this. I hope anyone else that's associated with this watch this, because I'm not going to let this happen if you guys do this wrong. If you're going to use the logic that we're going to restrict access to a level of care because there's no evidence of effectiveness, then we're going to have a lot of fun with 90% of the things that are done in the allopathic world, because there's very little evidence for the effectiveness of the majority of drugs that you guys are prescribing, the majority of surgeries that you're performing. So if you're going to hold us to that standard, then we are coming after you to make sure that you use that exact same standard in other methods of healthcare, because it's completely, you do not create restrictions because you don't show any evidence of benefit. You can't do that. If that's the case, none of these drugs should have made it through the therapeutic goods TGA. I mean, most of these drugs don't show positive effect. You're trying to stop something from happening rather than making something happen. It's a travesty to me how they choose to use this language when they can't get the language they really want. So if they maintain that this policy stays in effect because there's no evidence to support effectiveness of the treatment, our lawsuit is going to go immediately after that. It is going at the health ministers, and we're going to win because the truth is on our side with this issue. Now, there are rumors that not only are they considering keeping the policy, but they're considering increasing it to 12 and under because of the Safer Care Victoria document. Don't even get me started on the Safer Care Victoria document, because the recommendations that came out of that document have nothing to do with the actual information in that process, because that's one of the best chiropractic advocate piece of information we have. Both the 22,000 survey results, the specialty committees that were put together, everybody recommended or stated that there was no reason to have a restriction, but yet the recommendations at the end of it still stated that they recommend children 12 and under do not receive care. I have a problem with that. That's a whole nother conversation. If that happens, if for whatever reason the medical community has enough political pull to be able to actually get these health ministers to add 12 and under to this policy, then our lawsuit changes a little bit different. And man, now we're getting the general public involved, because they have now just basically taken away parental rights for decisions on what they want to do with their kids. And again, there's not a shred of evidence. And there's actually more evidence to the effectiveness when we get older because of sports and other types of things that we can now measure to the effectiveness of these children pre and post treatment. So it's just going to be a heyday. Part of me hopes they're arrogant enough to do that, because it's going to make our lawsuit even that much more effective. So if they decide to keep it in place, we're going to be going after the reasoning for doing that. If they are dumb enough to add the 12 and under, it makes the case even bigger, and we will be going after that. So please know that no matter what comes out of this, we are effective. Even if they remove the policy, I still want to go after this process. I haven't decided how that's going to happen. We're still having those conversations with our legal team, but we're still going to file something because we have to put something has to give that they can't do this anymore. The policy should have never been created in 2019, and there needs to be some accountability to that. And we're going to create a little bit of a storm to do that for this reason. As step 2 of this process is using the same strategy that they have. We have been interviewing PR firms that specialize in crisis management. Our goal of retaining a PR firm is to tell the story of the very systematic attack against chiropractic as it relates to children. We need to tell this story, and it needs to hit the media outlets. Our goal of our legal action is to make it newsworthy so that our PR firm can then go to all of these media outlets and tell our story and make sure that the information is really being told accurately. The beauty is we don't need to fabricate anything like they are, because the truth is on our side. We have all of those survey results that in Safer Care Victoria that have never been addressed or highlighted anywhere in the media. We have all of the other data that we show of the effectiveness related to children being treated by chiropractic. That those messages need to be told. So we're hoping the legal action creates enough awareness for the media outlets for us to actually hire a PR firm, have a very controlled and a concise message that goes out and tells the story of how we have been attacked systematically. This actually stems back to 1975. That's the first time in Australia that they came after chiropractic in children, and it's just morphed over the decades to what it is today. So I want you to know there's a plan. Now, here's where you come in. We have to organize. I don't know how else I have to tell you this. We need 4,000 chiropractors as members of the ACA. We need 4,000 chiropractors as members of the CDC. Doing that, one, that's still less than 2 patients a month. The economic impact to belonging to both organizations is 2 patients a month. But now you have the Special Forces defense system where you're never going to be alone. You are never going to have to worry about not being able to afford to defend yourself. You're never going to have to worry about losing your practice or your license, because we will be there to defend you on these issues. Then you also have a very strong advocacy organization in the ACA to be able to continue to build relationships and lobby and market for the effectiveness and the health of chiropractic throughout all of Australia. And I want to assure you, they have some phenomenal ideas. I've had these conversations with your leadership team, and they really are thinking far enough ahead. The problem is they don't have enough of the chiropractors in Australia to really be effective. I need 4,000 because when we're doing lawsuits and we're writing letters and we're doing things, I need to be able to show that we're representing enough of the profession. There's arguably 6,600 chiropractors in Australia. 4,000 is a very specific number because it gives us right at that 70 to 75%. That's the majority, right? I mean, obviously 51% is the majority, but 75% is an overwhelming majority of the profession. And so when we're saying we're doing this on behalf of that group, that carries just an enormous amount of weight. Not only that, but the reason we were successful during COVID is because on any given day, I would say turn right and you guys would all turn right. I'd say turn left and you would all turn left. That's how we kept you out of jail. That's how we stayed one step ahead of the government when they were trying to repress you. Imagine if we had 4,000 chiropractors that were staying plugged into the videos that we put out monthly and telling you about what's going on. And when we do an emergency email, 4,000 people are watching that and they're moving at the right time. There's so much power in that. 4,000 chiropractors moving in any single direction is unstoppable. If you're tired of being a redheaded stepchild in the healthcare system in Australia, if you're tired of being afraid and thinking that you're powerless to a regime above you, that you just are helpless to be able to defend yourself, then understand what we're trying to build in Australia, we can't build anywhere else in the world. You guys are a unique place for us to be able to show the strength of organization for our profession. I'm hoping to be so successful in Australia that we're able to mimic this in the United States and Europe, where there's some bigger issues, but there's even further separation in the profession. So I am motivated to continue to come out to Australia, to continue to fly and drive all over this country to get in front of as many people as I can, to tell this story and tell you we have a plan. There's no more excuses. There's zero reason that our profession should not absolutely explode because we have the truth on our side and we're getting organized. We have the organizations in place to do the work that needs to be done. What we need is the people connecting to this. So if you're watching this video, thank you so much if you've gotten to this point. We need you to join the CDC. It's $33 a month. Like I said, it's $50 to $54 depending on the exchange rates. Want to be part of us? Join the ACA. Give them the benefit of the doubt that there's a leadership team and an organization that's doing their job and that we're going to work together. You can cancel any of them at any point. If at some point we don't do what we say we're going to do, then stop giving us money. I'm okay with that. But I need you to believe enough in the profession. This is our time in history. This is our time to stand and come together and to create a world for future generations to be able to stand on our shoulders because we created a better environment for your country to access chiropractic. There's never been a better time for us to do this than right now. They have given us a gift with this attack against pediatrics. If we do it right, we have a platform to be able to tell our story unlike ever before in history. And we have the things in place. What I need is you. Me having 4,000 people gives me the money to hire the PR firm, gives me the money to hire the attorneys, and it makes it very affordable for you guys to have the defense that you need. For the ACA to have 4,000 chiropractors gives them the resources to do the work they need to do to really go and defend and to fight on your behalf in the realms that they fight in. This works. It's been working, and it can work even better if you guys jump in. So I'm off my soapbox. That's the plan. Within the next 5 years, we will take control of our narrative in Australia, but we can't do it without you joining. So please click the link below. If you're not contributing to us regularly, if you're not in there under our umbrella, do so. You will get at least once a month. I am going to modify how I'm doing my videos, but at least once a month, you're going to be getting an update video of what's going on behalf of chiropractic in your country. And you'll be able to see what's going on around the rest of the world as well if you care about that. But it's time. We have a plan. We have a strategy. We have the team in place. What I need are the soldiers. I need the warriors. I need the people that are going to stand up and say, I want to be a part of this. The beauty is no one's going to know. There's no target on your back. Anything we do will not come back to hurt you individually. But we will work together to grow chiropractic. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because this video is already way long. But please watch this. Please forward it to your colleagues. Make sure that everyone's aware of the strategy, what's being done. If you're not a member, join us. If you're not a member of the ACA, join the ACA. And let's come together as a profession. Let's really forget our biases over technique and philosophies and all of that. And let's create an environment for chiropractors, however you want to practice, have an opportunity to flourish. And we can do that together. We love you. Give me your feedback. If I said something that you don't agree with, or if I've missed something, please share that with me in replying to this email. But I want us to move forward together. And I will be back to see you in the new year. I will be continuing to update you on these strategies moving forward. But we love Australia, and you love what I love, which is chiropractic. And we are going to continue to work together to ensure that it becomes the #1 healthcare choice in the world. All right, guys, that's it. God bless.